The book of Exodus tells the epic tale of the Israelites' escape from slavery in Egypt. Led by Moses, a prophet chosen by God, they embarked on a perilous journey into the unknown. Their destination? The Promised Land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Their path? Through the harsh and unforgiving wilderness of Sinai. The Israelites faced countless challenges along the way. They endured hunger, thirst, and the constant threat of attack. Yet, through it all, God remained faithful. He parted the Red Sea, providing a miraculous escape from the pursuing Egyptian army. He sent manna from heaven to feed them and water from rocks to quench their thirst. Welcome back to Bible Stories and Chronicles channel. If you like to hear beautiful stories from Bible, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. This will be very meaningful to us, thank you. After months of wandering, the Israelites arrived at the foot of Mount Sinai, a place already steeped in mystery and awe. This wasn't just another landmark on their journey, it was a sacred space, designated by God for a momentous encounter. The arrival at Mount Sinai marked a pivotal moment in the Israelites' journey. They were on the verge of transitioning from a fleeing horde to a nation bound by divine law. Moses, their leader, ascended the mountain to meet with God, leaving the Israelites below trembling with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The encounter at Mount Sinai wasn't a one-sided declaration. It was a covenant, a sacred agreement between God and his chosen people. God promised to protect and bless the Israelites, to guide them to the Promised Land and establish them as a great nation. In return, the Israelites were to uphold God's laws, to live according to his divine principles. This covenant, sealed with thunder and lightning, would forever bind God and the Israelites. As the sun climbed higher over the desolate landscape, a hush fell over the Israelite camp. All eyes turned towards the summit of Mount Sinai, now veiled in a cloak of thick smoke. From the heart of the swirling smoke, a voice boomed forth, a voice that resonated with the very essence of power and authority. It was not the voice of thunder, though thunder accompanied it. It was the voice of God speaking directly to his people. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the fear and wonder in their eyes. The voice, echoing across the barren landscape, spoke of laws, of a covenant, of a new way of life that would forever bind them to their God. The voice from the mountain continued, each word reverberating through the hearts of the Israelites. 10 commandments, 10 fundamental principles were delivered with unwavering clarity. These were not arbitrary rules, but rather a divine blueprint for a just and compassionate society. The first commandments established the primacy of God, forbidding the worship of idols and the taking of his name in vain. The commandments then addressed human relationships, outlining principles for a just and compassionate society. Honor your father and your mother, the voice boomed, establishing respect for family as a cornerstone of their community. The sanctity of life was paramount. You shall not murder. The giving of the 10 Commandments was not merely a legalistic transaction. It was an act of profound love and a call to deeper relationship. God, in his infinite wisdom, had chosen to guide his people, to provide them with the tools to build a society that reflected his divine character. Obedience to these commandments was not about blind adherence to rules. It was about aligning their lives with the very heart of God. The Israelites, humbled by the experience, pledged their obedience. They understood that their freedom was not merely a gift, but a responsibility. The events at Mount Sinai marked a pivotal moment in the history of the Israelites. They had transitioned from a fleeing horde to a nation bound by divine law, a people chosen to reflect God's character to the world. The 10 Commandments, etched in stone and imprinted on their hearts, were a testament to the power and fragility of the covenant. The power of the covenant lay in its ability to transform. It had the potential to shape the Israelites into a people of justice, compassion, and faithfulness. Life in ancient Israel, like any society, was governed by a complex web of social structures and interactions. In a world where slavery was a common practice, the laws laid out in Exodus served as a radical departure, a testament to God's compassion for the vulnerable. The laws regarding Hebrew servants were particularly significant. Unlike the slaves of other nations, Hebrew servants were not to be treated as mere property. Chapter 21 of Exodus doesn't shy away from the complexities of human interaction, addressing issues of personal injury with a keen sense of justice and accountability. The laws outlined a clear system of redress, ensuring that victims were compensated and perpetrators were held responsible for their actions. The principle of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, while often misinterpreted, was intended to ensure that the punishment fit the crime, preventing excessive retribution and promoting a sense of fairness. These laws, far from being archaic, laid the groundwork for a legal system that valued human life and well-being. The laws detailed in Exodus 21, while specific in their instructions, were intended to be more than just a rigid set of rules. They were to be interpreted and applied with wisdom, compassion, and a deep understanding of the human condition. The spirit of the law, the underlying principles of justice, fairness, and respect for human dignity was as important as the letter of the law. The Israelites, guided by their elders and judges, were expected to apply these laws with discernment, taking into account the unique circumstances of each situation. Chapter 22 of Exodus takes us deeper into the heart of Israelite society, exploring the laws that governed their daily interactions and ensured the smooth functioning of their community. Central to this chapter is the concept of private property, not just as a matter of material wealth but as a reflection of an individual's hard work, diligence, and God-given right to the fruits of their labor. The laws outlined in this chapter addressed a range of offenses, from theft to property damage, emphasizing the importance of respecting the boundaries and possessions of others. These laws weren't merely about punishing wrongdoers, they were about establishing a framework for trust and fairness within society. The underlying message was clear. Every action had consequences, and individuals were expected to take responsibility for their actions. Theft, a violation of trust, and a disruption of social harmony, was treated with particular seriousness in ancient Israel. The laws outlined in Exodus 22 stipulated that a thief, if caught, was not only obligated to return the stolen goods, but also to pay a penalty, often double or even fourfold the value of what was taken. This principle of restitution went beyond mere compensation. It was about restoring balance, deterring future offenses, and impressing upon the offender the gravity of their actions. The severity of the punishment varied depending on the circumstances of the theft. The law recognized that different offenses warranted different responses, promoting a sense of proportionate justice. The emphasis on restitution served several purposes, ensuring that the victim was not only compensated for their loss, but also restored to their previous economic standing. Woven into the fabric of these laws was a profound concern for the well-being of the most vulnerable members of society. Widows, orphans, and the poor were often at the mercy of others, lacking the social standing and resources to protect themselves from exploitation. The laws outlined in Exodus 22 served as a safeguard, a reminder that even in the pursuit of justice, compassion and empathy were paramount. Lenders, for example, were forbidden from charging interest on loans to the poor, recognizing that such practices could easily trap individuals in a cycle of debt. If a poor person was forced to give their cloak as security for a loan, it had to be returned to them each night, acknowledging their basic need for warmth and protection. These seemingly small acts of consideration spoke volumes about the values that underpinned Israelite law. The Israelites were reminded that their covenant with God extended beyond their personal piety. It required them to be agents of justice and mercy in the world around them. The treatment of the most vulnerable members of their society was a reflection of their faithfulness to the covenant and their understanding of God's character. The laws detailed in Exodus 22 offer a glimpse into the heart of God, revealing a God who is deeply concerned with justice, fairness, and the well-being of all people. These laws were not merely a set of rules to be followed out of fear or obligation, They were an invitation to reflect God's character in the world, to create a society where righteousness and compassion flourished. The Israelites, through their obedience to these laws, were challenged to move beyond a transactional understanding of their relationship with God. It wasn't enough to offer sacrifices and observe rituals. They were called to embody God's justice and mercy in their daily lives, in their interactions with their families, their neighbors, and even strangers. The laws regarding property rights, theft, and social responsibility were all interconnected, forming a tapestry of justice and compassion that reflected God's desire for a just and harmonious society. The Israelites, by upholding these laws, were not only shaping their own community, but also serving as a beacon of hope to the nations around them, demonstrating the transformative power of a life lived in covenant with the God of justice and mercy. In the midst of laws governing social interactions and legal disputes, a rhythm of rest emerges in Exodus 23. The Sabbath, a day set apart for rest and reflection, was more than just a religious ritual. It was a radical concept in a world where work often consumed every waking hour. It was a gift, a time for individuals, families, and even animals to find respite from the demands of daily life. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, God commanded, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it, you shall not do any work. This wasn't merely a suggestion but a divine ordinance, a recognition of the human need for rest and rejuvenation. The Sabbath was a time to step back from the fields, to lay down the tools of their trade, and to turn their attention to matters of the Spirit. The Sabbath wasn't just about refraining from work. It was about reconnecting with God, with their families, and with their own inner selves. It was a time for storytelling, for sharing meals, for studying the scriptures, and for simply being present in the moment. It was a day to acknowledge God's sovereignty, to give thanks for His blessings, and to realign their lives with His purposes. Throughout Exodus 23, a rhythm of celebration intertwines with the call to justice and the observance of the Sabbath. 3 times a year, the Israelites were commanded to gather before the Lord, their God, to celebrate festivals that commemorated His deliverance and provision. These weren't merely social gatherings, they were sacred assemblies, opportunities to express their gratitude, reaffirm their covenant with God, and renew their commitment to His ways. The Festival of Unleavened Bread, commemorating their hasty departure from Egypt, served as a poignant reminder of God's swift and decisive action on their behalf. The Festival of Harvest, a time to rejoice in the bounty of the land, was a tangible expression of their gratitude for God's provision. And the Festival of Ingathering, marking the end of the harvest season, was a time to acknowledge God's faithfulness throughout the year. These festivals, woven into the fabric of their yearly cycle, served to bind the Israelites together as a people. They were opportunities to share stories, to pass on traditions to the next generation, and to strengthen the bonds of community. But more than that, they were celebrations of God's faithfulness, reminders of His unwavering love, and opportunities to realign their lives with His purposes. Chapter 24 of Exodus brings us to a pivotal moment in the story of the Israelites, a moment where the covenant agreed upon amidst thunder and lightning is sealed with a tangible act of commitment. Moses, having descended from the mountain with the tablets of the law, gathers the people together to renew their vows to God. He reads aloud from the book of the covenant, reminding the Israelites of the laws they have agreed to uphold. It's a moment of sober reflection, a time to weigh the responsibility that comes with freedom, a freedom earned through obedience to the covenant. The Israelites, their hearts stirred by the words of the covenant, respond with a resounding affirmation: all that the Lord has spoken we will do, and we will be obedient. It's a vow made not out of coercion, but out of a deep sense of gratitude and a desire to honor God. To seal this sacred agreement, Moses performs a symbolic act, an act laden with profound spiritual significance. He takes half of the blood of the sacrificed animals and sprinkles it on the altar, representing God's part in the covenant. The other half he sprinkles on the people, a tangible reminder that their lives are now bound to God and to His law. The journey through Exodus, from the drama of the Exodus to the covenant at Mount Sinai, offers timeless wisdom for a modern age. It's a story that speaks to the human longing for freedom, the importance of justice and compassion, and the power of encountering the divine. The Ten Commandments, though given in a specific time, resonate with universal truths that transcend cultures. They challenge us to examine our lives, relationships, and priorities, and our understanding of right and wrong. They call us to a higher standard rooted not in fleeting cultural norms, but in the unchanging character of a just and holy God. The story of the Exodus reminds us that freedom comes with responsibility. True freedom is found not in doing whatever we please, but in aligning our lives with a higher purpose. It's about living in right relationship with God and one another, respecting the dignity of every human being, and striving for a world where justice and mercy prevail. As we navigate our own time, the journey through Exodus serves as a compass, guiding us towards principles that shape our lives and the world around us. It's a story that continues to inspire, challenge, and offer hope, reminding us that even in hardship, God is faithful to his promises and can transform our lives and our world. We will continue with another beautiful story from Bible in our next video. If you have not, please subscribe to this channel to help us to grow these contents to wider audience. Thanks for watching.